My name is Ethan Vale, and if someone had told me a year ago that I'd become the husband of the most feared Mafia Don in the country, I would have laughed in their face, not because it sounded impossible, because people like me didn't get happy endings. We survived. Barely. Until the night I met Leonardo De Luca, the man everyone feared, the man who changed my life after a single night. It was raining when I met him, not the soft kind of rain either, the violent kind, the kind that flooded streets and blurred city lights into smears of gold and red outside the motel window. I almost didn't go inside that room, but I needed the money. My father's debts were swallowing us whole, and by then I was desperate enough to stop caring what happened to me. That's why I agreed to spend one night with a stranger. Just one. Then I'd disappear. But the second I walked into that room, I knew he wasn't ordinary. Leonardo sat by the window in a black dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, expensive watch glinting beneath the dim light. Power clung to him. Not loud power, controlled power. The kind that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. His eyes landed on me slowly, sharp, dark, unreadable, and for some reason, he looked tired, not dangerous, just lonely. "You're younger than I expected," he said quietly. I almost turned around right there, but then he stood and walked toward me carefully like he didn't want to scare me. "What's your name?" "Ethan." His expression softened slightly. "Ethan," he repeated like he was testing the sound of it. That should have been my warning sign, because nobody had ever spoken my name like it mattered before. That night ruined me, not because it was wild or reckless, because it felt real. Leonardo touched me gently, held me carefully, looked at me like I was something precious instead of something rented. When I woke up the next morning, he was asleep beside me for the first time in what looked like years. I left before he woke up, and I thought that was the end, until 3 weeks later. 2 red lines changed everything. I found out I was pregnant in a gas station bathroom. I remember staring at the test so long my vision blurred. "No." My voice sounded broken. My hands shook violently as panic crashed into me. Because I already knew what my future looked like. My father had sold me, not officially, but close enough. His debt belonged to a gang leader named Marcus Reed, a disgusting old monster with blood on his hands and women terrified of being alone near him. I overheard the deal one night. "1 week," Marcus had said coldly. "Then the Omega is mine." Mine. Like I wasn't even human. I remember curling my arms around my stomach instinctively that night, because suddenly it wasn't just me anymore. There was a baby, my baby, and I knew one thing for certain: I would die before letting that man near my child. So I ran. For 6 days I lived like a ghost. Cheap motels, bus stations, sleepless nights. Every time my phone rang, I panicked. Every black SUV made my heart stop. Then they found me. I had just walked out of a convenience store when 3 luxury SUVs pulled up by the sidewalk. Men in black suits stepped out first. Armed, disciplined, terrifying. I froze. Then the middle car door opened, and Leonardo stepped out. Only this time, he wasn't the gentle stranger from the motel. He looked lethal. Long black coat, leather gloves, expression cold enough to silence an entire street. People literally moved out of his way. That was the moment I realized exactly who he was. Leonardo De Luca, head of the De Luca Syndicate, the most feared mafia organization in the country. The man politicians bribed, the man criminals feared, the devil people whispered about after midnight. My blood turned cold. He walked toward me slowly. And God help me, his eyes softened the second they landed on me. "There you are," he murmured. I took a step back immediately. "You found me. I've been looking everywhere for you." Fear crawled down my spine. I thought he was angry I disappeared. Thought maybe I embarrassed him somehow. Then he noticed how pale I looked, and his jaw tightened. "Marcus Reed found you first, didn't he?" I said nothing. That was answer enough. Something dangerous flickered across his face. Not annoyance. Rage. Cold, murderous rage. Then he looked back at me gently. "Come with me, Ethan." I swallowed hard. "What if I say no?" His voice lowered. Then I'll stay right here until you trust me enough to say yes. That shocked me more than the armed men, because powerful men didn't wait. They took. But Leonardo? He held out his hand patiently. And eventually, I took it. Living in Leonardo's mansion felt unreal. The place was enormous. Guards everywhere. Luxury in every corner. Everyone feared him there. Even his own men straightened the second he walked into a room. But with me, he became someone else entirely. Soft, gentle, careful. At first I thought it was fake. I expected him to eventually show his true colors, expected cruelty, control, violence. Instead, he brought me tea when I couldn't sleep, sat beside me during thunderstorms because he noticed they made me anxious. And when he found bruises Marcus's men left on my wrist, Leonardo lost control. I still remember the terrifying silence in the room. He touched the bruise once, then smiled, not kindly, coldly. Kill every man who touched him. I'd never seen fear move through trained assassins before, but I saw it then. Even after that, I still hid the pregnancy. I was terrified. Terrified he'd take the baby. Terrified he'd think I trapped him. But morning sickness became impossible to hide. One morning I nearly collapsed in the hallway. Leonardo caught me before I hit the floor. His arms wrapped around me instantly. "Ethan!" Panic filled his voice. "I'm fine. You're shaking." "I'm okay." "You're lying." That night I finally told him. My hands trembled as I handed him the ultrasound photo. The room went silent. Leonardo stared at it for a long time. Then finally, "You're carrying my child?" I nodded nervously. For one horrible second, he said nothing. Then suddenly he stood so fast his chair slammed backward. I flinched instinctively. But instead of anger, he pulled me into his arms carefully, like I might break. I felt him trembling. "An heir," he whispered shakily. His voice cracked. And somehow that terrified me more than his anger ever could have. Because Leonardo De Luca did not break. But he was breaking now. Over us. Over our son. After that, he became ridiculously protective. I wasn't allowed to walk downstairs alone. 3 doctors monitored me constantly. Leonardo personally attended every hospital appointment, no matter how important his meetings were. One time his underboss complained, "The shipment deal can't wait." Leonardo didn't even look up from helping me put on my coat. "Then they can wait longer." Nobody argued after that. And somewhere between midnight cravings and hospital visits, I fell hopelessly in love with him. Maybe it happened when I caught him talking to my stomach late at night. "You behave for Papa," he whispered softly. "Don't make him too tired." Maybe it happened every time he kissed my forehead before leaving for work, or every time he looked at me like I hung the moon. Either way, I was done for. Completely. Not everyone liked it. An ex-lover of his tried cornering me during a charity gala. "You really think a man like Leonardo settles down?" he mocked quietly. "You're just carrying his heir." The words hurt more than I wanted to admit. But Leonardo heard. And God, I have never seen a room go silent faster. He walked straight toward me in front of politicians, celebrities, and criminals alike, then wrapped an arm around my waist possessively. "This," he said coldly, "is my husband, Ethan De Luca." The entire ballroom froze. "And the future mother of my son. Anyone who disrespects him answers to me." Nobody challenged him. Nobody ever did again. Our son was born during another storm, a beautiful little boy with dark hair and my eyes. We named him Lucien De Luca, the heir to the De Luca Empire. I still laugh remembering how Leonardo reacted. He had been in the middle of a major meeting when the nanny called him. One sentence, "That boy's in labor." Apparently, Leonardo went completely pale before standing so abruptly he nearly flipped the table. Then he left. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. Just panic. The most feared man in the country racing through traffic because his husband needed him. When he finally reached the hospital, he looked completely wrecked. Hair messy, tie crooked, hands shaking. And the second the nurse placed Lucien into his arms, Leonardo cried. Actually cried. Tiny tears slipped down his face while he stared at our son like the baby had placed the stars in the sky himself. Our son, he whispered. I'd never seen him look happier. People thought Leonardo's family became his weakness. His enemies certainly did. They tried threatening me, tracking me, using Lucien against him. But they misunderstood something important. Before us, Leonardo fought because he had to survive. Now, he fought because he had something worth protecting. And a dangerous man with a reason to live is far more terrifying than a man ready to die. So no, I'm not afraid of Leonardo De Luca. The world sees a monster. I see the man who kisses our son goodnight every evening. The man who still reaches for my hand in his sleep. The man who once looked at me with terrifying vulnerability and whispered, "Please stay." And honestly, I never wanted to leave him again.